Welcome, everybody. Today I'm going to have a conversation with my good friend Randy Savvy, who is the leader and co-founder of the Compton Cowboys. Hope you enjoy. Welcome, everybody. Today our guest is Randy Savvy from the Compton Cowboys. We're happy to have him here, and we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. So, Randy, thanks, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you, Ethan, man, for real.
I know we've already started a little bit, but you have been so prolific in all the directions that you're going. Just in the, I don't know, we've been in touch for maybe 3 years or something like that. And,
wow, already 3 years. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think so. But man, hats off to you. Great work. You got music, you got the kids program, you got publishing, you got film coming down the pipe. But man, I thought maybe we could start like from the beginning of Randy, your youth, like where did it all start?
Definitely, man. Well, thank you first of all for having me. I love to be able to come on here and share my story and just kind of get people familiar with what we're doing down in Compton. And the Richland Farms is such a special thing that not a lot of people know about. And so I'm always happy to talk about it because this is like my dream is to like put our town on the map.
And it's Richland Farms is a section of Compton that has what, like larger lots or
yes.
I went there, so I know, but it's pretty incredible when you go there.
Richland Farms is actually ground zero for Compton. So when Compton, the founder of Compton, G.D. Compton, when he came to this area, he himself was a farmer. He was all big on like agriculture and all this stuff. And so he particularly chose this area to do all of his work. So he would farm and grow and do all this stuff. And he was esteemed. He would go to the World Fair and win the awards for having the biggest pumpkins and whatever, right? And so when he went to incorporate the city of Compton in 1888, he included in the deed that this town, Richland Farms, had to remain a farm town into perpetuity. So he designated this town to be a farm town forever. So if the residents of Compton would always have an area for the farmers. So now you fast forward to 2021, you go to our neighborhood, it's still a farm town. There's no sidewalks. People are riding around on horses. Everybody's like, all the lots are bigger. There's like, I think the minimum is like a half acre, or something like that, up to an acre, and it's maybe an acre and some change. And my family has 3 adjacent properties, so we're on about 2.5 acres.
I see.
And we just, my aunt moved there in 88. She wanted to be a cowgirl. She grew up, watching your dad's movies and all that kind of stuff. And she just always wanted to be a cowgirl. She loved animals. She loved horses in particular. She grew up around some people who had a horse. She used to bug them to be like, yo, can I ride the horse? Can I touch the horse? And so when she got into her real estate work as an adult, she found this town, Richland Farms, and she's like, oh my God, no brainer. Like I can live in the city, have my horses, and like live this lifestyle, like no brainer, right? So she gets her property, and then she tells my dad. So my dad's like, okay, this looks cool. My dad's fresh out of school. They're working together. He comes down, my grandma comes down. So we end up getting a few properties there, and it was more so originally just to like have family there and have some lifestyle and horses, and then slowly but surely, we our family and my aunt in particular recognized that the community has such a demand for like just improvement and development and like social work and different things. There was so much happening. You got to think Compton, 1988. This is like the wild west of a city, right? It's like everything that could be wrong with the community was wrong at that time. You got drugs, crime, violence, gangs, domestic violence, police brutality, corrupt local government. I mean, like everything. Yeah. And so one thing leads to another. My cousin gets shot on some like gang violence kind of stuff. He's fine now. He's alive and he's trucking. He's on the road. But that was a real traumatic experience for our family. And that was the moment where my aunt decided, like, Maisha Akbar is my aunt. She's like, yo, if we're going to be here, we have to either like, first of all, we should probably, we're faced with the decisions. Should we leave and take our family to somewhere that's safer and we could grow and be safe as a family and thrive? Or are we going to stay? And if we're going to stay, we can't stay as is. We have to do something about this problem. And so they settled on the latter pretty quickly. My family is very community oriented. It stems from my grandmother on down. And so that's when the Compton Jr Posse was born. She decided, hey, you know what? If I can use a horse to attract a kid, and then if they want to ride, all these kids keep begging to ride my horse. Well,
and she took a tough community and she focused on where sort of change has to happen, right? With
absolutely.
the youth.
Absolutely.
And she gave them a place to go. I mean, You know, I'm older now. I don't have kids, and I constantly think like, what can I do? What can I do to help kids? Like, because that's where you got to start.
Definitely.
That's who needs the attention, the focus, you know, or something to focus on. And you gave them something to focus on, or Maisha did that.
Yes, absolutely. And the kids where we come from, and I was one of those kids, I know all too well, like so easily to be distracted and so easily to get pulled into the streets because there's just lack of opportunity, lack of family structure, resources, whatever. So the horse happened to be the magic and the magnet, which they are. The horses were just being themselves. They just happened to live in this community and they had that attractive nature. The kids would come beg to ride, and she said, "Hey, if you want to ride, show me your report card. Somebody got to tell me that you're making sure you're going to school. Are you behaving at home? If you want to do all those things, you can ride." And so that's just snowballed. So now we're 30 plus years later, Compton Cowboys are all the kids, you know, our crew is all kids who grew up and came up in that program together. And
your aunt retired, and then you guys came back and saved the program.
Mm-hmm. She retired after 30 years, and she was going to close because there wasn't anybody who was well positioned enough such that they would understand the heart of the mission and keep it intact. She never wanted it to turn into some big corporate thing or it would like stray off into serving different audiences that got away from the original mission. So she was just going to close it and that be her legacy. And then we got opportunity at the same time. We randomly got a call from Guinness Beer like, "Hey, we're doing a Black Cowboy commercial. We need some people. And we need some producer who can help us like execute this concept." And so I took on that project, produced this beautiful, and that commercial is still probably my favorite of our work. It's just we spent 3 days, the whole company came down. We spent 3 days in LA shooting this beer commercial for Guinness that was about Compton Cowboys and Black Cowboys, and it was beautiful. And that kind of was like, oh, Compton Cowboys is a thing now.
Did you guys have did you have an instant, like how did people know about you? Was it Instagram or was it before Instagram? Like how did Guinness find you guys?
The Guinness, they were just doing cold research looking for cowboys in the United States, Black cowboys in the US and East Coast and West Coast. And the Junior Posse kept popping up. Maisha, our program, you know, because Maisha was doing this since '88. So they found their way through found somebody over there. It got passed through the communication lines and they ended up in front of my house. When I was walking out my house, they're like, "Hey, we're here to we're representing Guinness. We're looking for so-and-so and blah, blah. And then it just all happened. So once we went into production and that commercial was getting done and then it was slated to come out, and I'm thinking in my head like, yo, if this thing actually airs, like, the people are going to be looking for who we are. So I'm like, oh man, I probably should set up a website, set up an Instagram. I should like Compton Cowboys. I should just make it a thing. It's just like I'm sitting at the bar in BJ's eating a steak.
And he's like, on it.
Like,
he knew.
And I'm drinking a Guinness at the bar, and I'm like, oh my. It kind of just hit me like, oh my God, that's it. Like nobody's doing this. Like we could be the Black Cowboys in Hollywood, just like killing the game, and then we could give back to the kids and make it a whole. It all hit me at once.
Wow.
And from that day, that was 4 years ago, and that was in the September-ish of 2017.
That was only 4 years ago.
Only 4 years ago, and I was like, bro, if I like dedicate my life to this, it can work. And ever since then, I've dedicated, and that's where we are now.
That's awesome. And the whole time you keep that kids program going.
Absolutely. That's the whole point of what we're doing. Yeah. It's like, yeah, the hype and all the cool cowboy TV shit is fun. Sorry for the language.
Yeah, you're good. But you know, like when I went up there, you know, I'm driving down the streets of Compton, and you turn into that neighborhood, and there's like, you know, Mexican guy on a horse, giant horse, like one of those crazy walking horses. You know, he's got a hat, the tassels hanging off the hat. He's just like cruising. And another guy goes by with no shirt on, and just like cruising on a horse, tatted up, getting some sun. I mean, it's an incredible neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, holy crap, I didn't know that this existed.
It's a beautiful place, and I think people should be familiar with it. It's Richland Farms, Compton, California. It's a real farm town, real cowboys, cowgirls, farmers, ranchers.
And kids. You know, you got the kids, and you're giving them something to focus on.
You know what warmed my heart the other day? I was in the kitchen just at night, like it was like this. It was already nighttime, like 9 something. I'm just in the kitchen grabbing something to drink, and like the way my stuff is set up, my window looks at the street. And I'm in there and I'm just look out the window, and across the street, like the neighbors have young kids or like preteens or whatever. And there's like 8 kids just sitting there on horses, just like lounging
On horses.
just like lounging, just
insane.
cooling. Like some shit you would see in like the 1800s, like in front of a saloon. But these are like kids in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, how beautiful is this? Like these kids, they growing up like with these animals and with each other. And it's like such a symbol of community and everything.
And a horse, like a relationship with a horse is, it's hard to describe, but it's really significant, and it's not short term. Horses live a long time, and you kind of work together. Like when you're with a horse, it's not a brief relationship. So, those kids are getting to care about something. They're getting to learn. I first heard about it and I thought, man, it's an incredible program.
Yeah. The love of the horse,
How's your
horses
aunt
with everything.
doing? Is she okay? Is she around?
She good. We're actually about to honor her at the LA Equestrian Center. We're doing the whole thing, like honoring Mike Shockbar for her contributions to the community and the equestrian industry for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
She's impacted a lot of lives. And I mean,
is she still living there?
She actually is in Norco right now. She got after she started slowing down and retiring, she wanted to go where it was quiet and she could just have her little farm.
I used to go to Norco when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Loved it.
It's a beautiful little horsey town.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty, like everything down here, we're surrounded by large development. But, even Newport was kind of a little town with a bunch of agriculture around it. Knott's Berry Farm was in the middle of the farm fields. Mm-hmm. Compton, I guess, had a bunch of land around it, that were farmed. It's crazy that we build all this development on some of the richest farmland, in the world. I just wonder how we replace that.
Exactly. And that's why I think the founder was so ingenious and had so much vision to say that would happen. Let me designate this town for these farmers forever so that they can't take it. I mean, our area, the real estate developers and people have come and tried to fight.
I'm sure.
And I've been down there at City Hall like this, and but they can't do nothing about it because it's in the deed. So God bless the founder.
Yeah, no kidding. Because growing up with my dad, obviously he was older. I was born. He's a famous actor. When you're a kid, you have no idea what's going on. But part of our life would be on location, say 3 to 6 months a year. Right. We're in Durango, Mexico. And then you're with, there's a herd of cattle, there's a herd of horses, there's wranglers, there's stuntmen, there's all this stuff going on. And you get attached to something. So I'd have that lifestyle 30% of the time. And then we'd come back here, and this wasn't always the most pleasant because my dad had to deal with sort of the administration of his life.
Right.
3 ex-wives, 7 kids, business deals. It was a little, I felt a little stress from him here. Yeah. And then he had his boat, so then he'd go on the boat and, he just drugged me along with him. So I got to experience all that, which was a great childhood. But you miss, you're with that horse and then that horse goes away. And I don't know, a horse is a special creature. There's a special bond between a human being and a horse that you don't get with anything else. So
that's factual,
anyway.
Man. Yeah, horses saved our life. So I know all that too well. Without these horses, I mean, that's our mantra. Streets raised us, horses saved us.
I like it.
We grew up in the streets and we didn't have them horses. Who knows where we would have been because the streets took a lot of our friends.
So I only went down your one street and I probably saw 6 horses in 3 blocks of going to your house.
There's over 100 horses in my neighborhood.
Really?
Easy.
So there's other streets and it's just everybody's riding around.
Small little town.
Trails you can get through there. And
you can ride up the creek, LA River. You can ride around the neighborhood. Wow. And the people, there's no the sheriffs, they love us because they're the sheriffs have mounted units. So they love the horses. Even though we're in the middle of the street, blocking traffic, they're yeah, howdy. Yeah,
Yeah, and they know you're giving opportunity to somebody who might not otherwise have it.
Yeah.
When you did your aunt call you and say, "Hey, I'm gonna retire. I'm shutting down the program. I don't want to do it anymore"?
My aunt actually is.
Or she's you're doing.
She's diva is an understatement to describe her. I love her. God bless her. She was trying to hold on for dear life, and she was going to straight close it. And my dad had to convince her because you got to imagine she raised us. We were all little knuckleheads in the hood, and So she watched us from little kids grow up, and now
But
she's
you're a
like,
little knucklehead from the hood who has a degree, a college
but she
degree.
never saw it. She's my aunt.
Right.
She's like,
And I also read that your father has a Harvard MBA.
yes.
Wow.
So,
Your parents or your crew, were attentive and cared for the kids and took care of you guys and kept you in a good direction.
absolutely.
Yeah.
They set a great foundation and set a precedent for us to be able to grow into who we are today. So she was, but at the same time, when she was ready to, retire and close, she was like, I'm not giving my organization to these little knuckleheads that I raised. Like, yeah, I love them. I love them dearly, but you want me to let them be in charge of my legacy now? Like, she was watching us run the streets, be crazy, like cracking the whip on us. You know what I'm saying? So now my dad was like, Maisha, like, they're grown. Randy can do it, and he asked me, he didn't pressure me. He was like, hey, you should think about this. We're going to, and I started to sit in the board meetings and watch everybody be so sad about closing down. And I was like, you know what? If I'm going to do it, because my dream was not this. And originally my dream was entertainment, just music and film and all that. And I was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it my way, which is I'm going to bring the lights, camera, action, entertainment energy to the ranch. And then that's where Compton Cowboys was born. It's like our whole thing is the ranch concept, the community, the kids, the horses, but put everything on camera and put hype around it, music and fashion and all this stuff around it. And then that is what, that's how we make our mark. And so I was like, if I'm going to do it, that's how I'm going to do it. And then my dad was like, whatever, you do what you got to do. Maisha was like, oh, hell no, that's not happening. She didn't teach. She was like, I didn't teach y'all to be riding around with flip-flops on and no shirt and, no helmet, no tack. I didn't teach y'all, that's like, she was very more like respect the culture and the safety and all the stuff that she taught us. Our whole thing is like against the grain, like NWA with cowboy hats,
Yeah.
like F everybody, F the establishment, F the status quo. It's like we're going the other way. But we still have the same intrinsic like love for the horse, love for the culture, love for the industry. We're just doing it our own way.
Yeah.
So she was reluctant, pushed back. But then of course, all of her colleagues, she's seeing us on TV, seeing all her colleagues like, oh, I love the Compton Cowboys. Now she's like, oh yeah, those are my kids. Like, and then so we still deal with a little bit of that back and forth. But she definitely loves what we're doing. And God bless her. She's slowing down a little bit now, but she made a legacy. She started something, and now we're gonna keep it going. And that's the beautiful part about just family and community and all that. So.
And are your parents still alive?
My dad is. Yeah, my parents are still alive. Yeah, my dad is the one. He was instrumental in helping build the organization with my auntie. We're all down there as a unit.
I see.
Yeah,
cool. My mom's still alive.
yeah.
My dad died when I was 17, but my mother is now 93.
Wow.
Still lives by herself. Has a little bit of help, but man, she's just. We did a podcast with her because this whole thing started because we wanted to get stories from people who knew my dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because we're losing people left and right now that knew him. So my mom came in, and I was blown away by some of the stuff that she said on that podcast, things I never knew.
Right. I mean, and now you're growing here and stuff.
She's from Peru. She grew up in Lima in the 40s and 50s. She was 14 or 15. She got a job like greeting the planes because like they had like 3 planes a week would fly in, so they gave her a uniform. She worked for Brana for Pan Am, and she'd go out there and greet the things. And met an American guy, married him. Things weren't going well with him, and I guess my dad and another guy went down there and asked about the film business, and she was actually working on a little film in the jungle, so they flew over. The guy took John Wayne to meet his wife in the jungle, and it sort of backfired on him because she ended up marrying my dad. But,
oh my God.
They all stayed friends forever. And it was just an interesting story for me to hear what she went through.
Wow.
To get to where she ended up. Yeah, she's a great lady.
Yeah, people's stories, trajectories it's so crazy like to trace how like to be standing here right now and then to look back at all of where you came and where you started is so it's so interesting. I'm always interested in that whole thing.
It's crazy. Well, we got a list of questions, but I don't know that we need to go over those. Did your aunt have was she into horses? Is that what, or was it just the area? Like they thought.
Well, she was into it. That was the whole draw of the area. She was into it from a kid. Like my grandfather was a war veteran. He used to just like when he was home, all he would do is sit around, drink whiskey, and watch westerns, screaming at the TV on like Saturday morning. I'm like, yeah, get that mom. And so they would see that, and then so that's what they were watching on TV with their. That was one of the only things they would do with their dad. He was all, the war tour, messed a lot of people up, but that was one of the only things that they would do. And so that was kind of a part of her childhood. And then some people around the neighborhood that she grew up in Harbor City here had a horse. And so she just always into it. And then when she found the neighborhood through real estate, that's when it kind of all clicked. She was like, I'm going to like dive into this. And that was it.
And did it start with like she had a horse, or did she always want to do it with the kids?
It just started with her wanting a horse and a home and to live the lifestyle. And then she got a horse, and her partner got a horse, and then it went from one horse. At one point we had 22 horses back there.
Wow.
And it was beautiful, man. All of me and my homies had horses to ride. We would go to, we were like real deal touring cowboys.
So, you have like an arena thing, right? So you got a, whatever you call it, like a sort of a dirt area where the kids can learn how to ride and you can keep control of them. But then you just go out through the neighborhood.
Yeah. Casual riding through the neighborhood is cool. And then we would haul and go to like out to like Malibus and Palos
I've seen you guys
Verdes
like going to horse shows now and rodeos and things like that. Like you have certain people competing.
Yeah, we used to do that as kids. We would go to all the rodeos we could go to, all the little.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we would go to all. As a kid, bro, I'm a real rodeo kid.
Really?
Like, you look at me, you would never know, bro. I was the real deal. Me and my homies, Compton Cowboys, we was rodeo kings. Like,
so it wasn't just riding there. You guys traveled and competed.
Oh yeah, no, we was the Compton Jr Posse. Right. We were touring. We would go up Northern California, Southern California, Vegas. We would go and win everything. It got to a point where people would start to get like jealous and mad that we were coming to shows.
Really?
Because they know we would pull up and take all the winnings. Like we would come, it'd be like a heist. We come up there with our little horses from the auction. We had 2 Arabians that were just monsters. Pull up in our little raggedy rig, and people were like, "Oh yeah!" And then we'd win everything, and then we'd leave. They'd be so mad, like, "Oh my God!" One lady was screaming at her whole team one time. She had this $50,000 quarter horse that she had just bought for her daughter, and we show up with our little auction horses that we got for $500, raggedy as fuck. But we won won all the money, all the prizes, everything. So we're driving out, leaving, and she's just storming around. I paid $50,000 for this horse. You should have been training the horse. The horse is fat and slow. Why are you like? We're just mad. Just like we're just leaving, bumping rap music, like, oh, we out of here. Like me and all the homies in the back seat, like eight little kids in the back seat of some old dually, like pulling off with our horses. Man, it was a great time.
That's
man.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Jade needs a horse.
Everyone needs a horse.
Well, since we went remote, Jade moved to Texas. Who else moved to Texas? Amy moved to Texas. Stacy moved to Nashville. Jill moved to Nashville, and she's in Austin now, and she needs a hobby. And so we were like,
"Oh, you're in Austin? I got people. I got a friend in Austin. I've been to Austin a couple times. It's hip out there. Yeah. It's happening. A horse friend? My friend out there is not a horse friend. She's a music person. But I could definitely find the horse people there.
Yeah, she needs some horse people. She wants a hobby.
The horse thing is the thing to do. I mean, I feel like, just on some spiritual divine stuff, like I'm real big on that. But like, I feel like these times are like calling us back to that. I feel like this is the purpose of like why everything needs to shut down, slow down. People need to get back to the animals and be back outside, and human and horse need to come back together.
I think a lot of people are since COVID. I think life has transitioned a lot since COVID, even as divisive and crazy as social media and politics is. I feel like it's, I go a lot of rural places. Where I like to hang out. And I've noticed that like nothing's for sale anywhere. Like, people are moving. They can work from anywhere. Mm-hmm. They get to make a garden or have a horse or animals or just get their kids out somewhere else. Katie, got another one. She's moving soon.
You going to Texas too? I'm trying to move too. I'm trying to go to Malibu. I'm trying to get out there. Where water and land and horses are.
Yeah.
I'm a California kid. I can't go nowhere else. I can travel, but I got to be home in LA.
I mean, I grew up here. Corona Del Mar, like another 5 miles down the coast. It's, I don't know. It's got like a Mastro's,
Corona Del Mar for sure.
You've been down there, seen all that. That was all horse ranch when I was a kid.
Wow.
Yeah, you could board your horses there, or you could go rent horses and go ride down on the beach.
Wow.
So where all those state parking lots are on the little cliff. That entire thing, when you'd fly in an airplane, you'd go, I'm at the horse ranch inbound, because you'd report over that thing.
Yeah. I think I'd love to get back to that. I mean, that's my life's work. Is like, I'm like the guy, everybody's going that way. Like, oh, we're trying to go to the moon and the stars. And I'm trying to go back to like land, nature, animals, like be outside. Like, but I want to do it in a super modern, hip way. Like my dream that I'm working with my team with right now is to do like a very like exclusive premium equestrian club kind of thing, where it's like all the industry people that ride are like all together. So we have a place to board all of our horses, like all the big actors, singers,
Yeah.
stars. All of our horses are at the same place. We can eat, dine, chill, bring our kids, do stuff for the youth. And then like, imagine like you go on a trail ride with like 40 people, but these are all like the 40 of the like most popping people in the world. Like imagine, you know what I'm saying? Like all the super high level influencers, big actors, big everybody, like, you know, bring people, because you need that hype to bring people back to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's my whole stick. Is like the kids don't think, they won't do anything that they don't think is cool.
Yeah.
If it's just like the horse by itself is beautiful and it's a thing, but all the kids that grow up, especially in my neighborhood we come from, you got to be dope. You got to be cool. You got to be fresh.
Who's the one guy? He's got long hair. He's tatted up. He always rides with no shirt.
Stoner.
His horse is kind of like, you know, pretty got a lot of movement in it.
Stoner Maine. That's my
like,
boy.
That guy's got to attract a bunch of kids.
You get what I'm saying?
Oh, okay.
He's
I'll
like
go do that.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
Exactly.
I'm not going to do that. But.
Exactly. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to show that you can be from where we come from. And
like
still
if I
do
rolled
it.
in without my shirt on, I would not get the same reaction.
Right. But yeah,
but I'm working on it.
Yeah. Yeah, but so that's what we're doing. Compton Cowboys is just trying to make the horse thing cool so that the kids get into it, and then once the kids get into these horses, that's the generations will change. We'll all get back to that good stuff.
Yeah, I hope so.
Off the technology and all the.
My favorite times with my dad were rural, on location, around horses, and around people who worked with horses.
Yes,
yeah. It's funny because, you know, I mean, I had to be full grown and go like to ask my brother like, hey, did Dad have horses? He's like, no, he didn't have horses. He didn't have time to have a horse.
Right.
He worked with them.
He just worked with them all the time.
You know, he rode a horse to school when he was a kid. And they lived in Lancaster. They moved out here from Iowa when he was a young boy. And he rode a horse to school. The horse had an intestinal problem, like a wasting disease. Mm-hmm. And some people in the community, he took really good care of the horse. He loved the horse. Some people in the community reported him to whoever, the police or whatever they had back then. Mm. This is in the early 1900s. And so they were accused of mistreating this horse, and they weren't. And so like the judge called in a vet, and the vet came in and said, no, the horse is getting good care. It just has this disease. And the horse ended up succumbing to the disease, and it broke my father's heart when he was a little boy.
Oh, man.
And so I think he resisted getting too close to animals. And then once he was, 20, he was working pretty hard for the rest of his life. But he had, movie horses that he cared about and that he liked to work with.
Got to, man. The horses, man, that's where it's at. I mean, yeah, I said it, in LA, we sit in traffic and it's got all the smog and all this other stuff. And it's like, man, what if we always just on the same, all these people on the dirt path on horses?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah. I love it.
Go to the local spot, hitch up.
You ever been to Pioneer Town?
I haven't.
Have you heard of it? So Pioneer Town's, like, you go to Palm Springs and it's like the 10 freeway and then that 111 cuts off.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Well, you go a little farther and there's one that goes east. It goes through Yucca Valley and Joshua Tree.
Yeah. Oh, yep.
So at Yucca Valley, you turn and you go up a little bit more and you get to this place called Pioneer Town. And I guess they built this Western set for Roy Rogers, and they'd either drive him or fly him out to this place in the desert, and they'd film all their episodic TV shows out there. And it's kind of like, it's bouldery and Joshua trees, and it's kind of a cool place. But that thing still exists, and the community wants to keep it all dirt roads, and it's kind of equestrian out there too. And so I bought an old barn that I'm going to try to convert to like sort of a living quarters.
That's dope.
But I'm going to put in some stables and things out there, and then it's a bunch of the land out there has been preserved. So it's only foot traffic and horse traffic.
I love it.
So you can ride for miles out there.
Wave,
yeah, beautiful riding. You got to go check it out.
That is the wave. That's what I want. I love to
Come on, San Bernardino County. Give me a permit. Give me my permit.
Yeah.
It's taking forever.
They'll give you permits for all this other stuff.
It's 2 hours from LA.
Love
it seems like a lot of people from LA are going out there now.
Well, LA is a crazy place. I mean, the cost of living, all the crazy now legislations for all these different things. I mean, man, it's just I am born and raised in LA, so my heart is always in it. Like I get nothing like riding down PCH, Malibu on a Sunday, listening to some like jazz, pulling up at the barn. Like that feeling is like irreplaceable no matter where you go to me. But I do recognize that a lot of the different issues that exist. So we're working to fix that. But But yeah, a lot of people are getting out because it's just hard.
So hopefully it creates opportunity. You guys can get that place in Malibu.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Beautiful
that'd be
ranch,
cool.
Mill Creek Equestrian Center. It's 30 acres up in the canyon, and it's beautiful. Just a barn, it has arenas, it has.
Can you get
living.
off the 30 acres and go on trails?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
There's a
that's
whole
pretty
trail
cool.
network into the whole amount. I think there's a lot of private property developments in there now that we have to kind of sort, but I think that's just a matter of talking to those people and say, hey, can we ride through there? But yeah, it's beautiful.
What where do you want to see the kids program go? Like, can that grow? You want to see it go to Malibu, grow a little bit bigger, introduce the kids to influential people?
Absolutely. The goal is global expansion. I mean, like when I'm
if you went to Malibu, would you keep something going
Absolutely.
in Richland Farms?
Compton is the heartbeat. That's my community. That's what needs it. That's the whole point of it.
Yeah.
So there is an equestrian center in Compton. It's like on the border of Compton Paramount. That is a county park. That's an equestrian center that I'm trying to move and get like formal operations going over there. Kind of get out of the backyard and get more into these formal facilities because that's where it's really at. Because then you have regulation size arenas. You have the right footing and all that stuff is important because the horse health is the most important. So we're doing that. We're always going to have Compton we want Compton to be the model for what we do in the world. And then we say, okay, boom. Now if we go to Malibu, that's where all the formal athletics clubs will take hold because now we have these arenas, we have all these trainers out there, all these horses out there, and the trajectory from there to the Olympics is very clean, or from there to NFR is very clean. It's like there's no obstruction there. It's just a matter of having the infrastructure. I got the people, I got everything. I just got to get this spot. So then you do that, you do Malibu, then you start slowly but surely, I would love to have like ranches in Africa, ranches in Hawaii, ranches in UK, and just this model that we put together is like horses, kids, and cool stuff, and like media, and all this lights, camera, action. Horses.
Yeah,
make it a whole thing.
I like it.
Yeah,
man, if we can help somehow, we'd sure like to. You ever been to Africa?
I have not. My dad's been. I want to go. I really want to go, especially now with all the music coming from over there that's kind of hitting the pop culture scene. Like, I want to go to West Africa so bad just to experience the culture. And I want my guy who's my stylist is an African who is also a cowboy, and he has like cowboys and horse people in Africa.
Really?
Yeah. He's like a whole thing. So I want to go out there.
I don't
and
think
ride
I've really
with him.
seen a lot of horse stuff in Africa.
Yeah, it's a vibe.
Unless it's like formal English kind of stuff, but
yeah, no, they got it going on, and that is actually something that we're gonna do. Is to like as a part of our touring efforts when we start getting that going, is going to be like traveling to all the parts of the world that have like the more like underobserved or like the Compton Cowboys of that region. Like, who are these horse riding people that are so unexpected? Where are they? We want to come meet you, ride with you.
It's so good and so natural.
Experience the culture.
Yeah.
Like, we'll go to the islands and like ride with some like island cowboys who ride through the jungles and on the water and like eat the food and
awesome.
and then film all that, right? And it's like put it out, make it a thing. Yeah.
That'd be good. Yeah, I've never been to Africa. Looks amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
It's got everything, right?
Yeah.
Trouble, beauty, this, that,
Everything.
It's got everything.
Culture and food and wild. I mean, it's wild. Everywhere you go, you can find the best of the best and the worst of the worst. That's anywhere on earth.
When I was a kid, my dad died, and I bought a kit for an ultralight, little airplane thing, built it, and one of the guys that I met built one for this couple that lived in Namibia and studied the elephant herds. And so he built them like a little twin engine, like fabric covered airplane. And he would talk about his time in Africa as, the most incredible time that he's ever spent.
I believe it.
Amazing animals, amazing landscape, living way far away from anybody else.
Like that sounds amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty insane.
I always say, man, sometimes I just be wishing I was an animal and I was out there, because human beings, man, they be killing me, man.
Well, what is up with us? Yeah,
we something wrong with our design. I'll be asking God sometimes, like, what happened?
Should you
bro?
be scared of AI? I'm like, yeah, you should be scared of AI because you're human. AI is gonna look at it and go like, you guys are the problem,
right? Exactly. Man. Like, God was like making us, and then fell asleep and like accidentally overloaded us with too much of one thing, and now we're all came out like extra flawed. Like,
yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy, man. God bless us, but we just doing the good work. Hopefully we can keep horses at the forefront of all this and kind of follow their lead and be inspired by them and try to change people.
Well, you're helping kids, man, and you're actually doing it. Like a lot of people try to figure out how to do it. You zeroed right in on it. You had the opportunity. You took it, and you're saving lives and creating better people.
Thank you,
hats
bro.
off to you.
Thank you.
And I know you got a lot of other stuff going on, but I want to ask, like, black kid from Compton, white kid from Newport Beach. How does John Wayne affect your life? Like, I know how he affected my life, but like, how was John Wayne looked at in your household?
Well, John
Old
Wayne was the
Western
man. My
movies,
dad is like a Western movie fanatic, bro. Like that's the whole reason him and my aunt kind of even got introduced into cowboy hats and horses and all that was through watching Westerns with their father. And so my dad just loves it. And so naturally he loved it. So I would kind of see it. Sometimes I just walk by or he's in the living room on this fucking lazy boy just watching this, watching Westerns.
By the way, there's not a more comfortable thing in the world than a lazy boy for me.
Seriously, especially if you got a quality one that like
if you just want to relax, I don't care what kind of chair it is. If it's a lazy boy, you're going to be so comfortable.
So
I don't know why.
My dad's like, he's always had one big leather brown, like whether it's brown or tan lazy boy.
Yeah.
And he used to just be in there and just like a Western is on the screen. And I'm just like, bro, we're in the middle of Compton, like running around. I'm trying to play Nintendo or whatever. And he's like watching Westerns. And I used to think that was so funny, but yeah, so we always had love for Westerns, John Wayne and Roy Rogers, all those guys, all those movies, TV shows or whatever. But my dad has always had such a grievance with the fact that there were no black like John Waynes, right?
Yeah.
And so his life's works. And now that I'm doing what I'm doing, he's like my biggest fan because he's like, please, man, like we gotta have black Westerns, man. So like his whole thing is like doing that. But he's super excited about the fact that I'm connected with you and that whole legacy and everything.
And I mean, like in reality, in that short, 2 or 3 decades of the cowboy, I guess that maybe 25% were black.
Yeah.
But that wasn't really represented on screen in Hollywood films. Why? I have no idea.
Right.
I don't know if it's because of the audience or the producers or what the deal was, but yeah, I think there's certainly room to make. One, I'd love to see a Western come back. Two, it'd be great if he represented the black cowboy.
Well, and interestingly, there is a movie coming out called The Harder They Fall, which is Jay-Z produced for Netflix, executive produced for Netflix, and it is a black Western.
Oh,
it's
really?
Like Regina King, like Idris Elba, Lakeith Stanfield. Like it's a whole Western thing, like a full-blown black cast, black Western movie. And Jay-Z's whole thing is like representation, like doing this and showing the other side, showing how our people are to take on it. So that whole thing is coming. I mean, that's part of what we're doing. Is like I'm in development for film. Our stuff is happening. Like my whole dream is to like bring the black Western aesthetic to Hollywood. Like basically take the John Wayne approach, but like me, right? And then like our people do it. So that's where kind of we have a natural interface. I think it's a pretty cool thing. And the conversation is so relevant. It'd be great to like always keep talking about that like back and forth. Like it's just great. Yeah.
Sometimes I'll look at an old John Wayne movie and I'll be like, I'll watch it for 2 minutes and then end up sitting there and watching the whole thing. And okay, it was from 50 or 60 or 70 years ago, but there's always sort of one, a man on a horse is pretty magnificent to see. Two, there's some kind of an adventure. Three, there's some kind of struggle where you want somebody to make a good decision, or like you could trust somebody, or you could rely on them or something like that. Four, you get pearls of wisdom, like you get sort of, I don't know if it's cowboy wisdom, but you get simple sayings that mean a lot, like my dad would always say to me, you're a little long on mouth and short on ears right now, and like, hey, shut up and listen before you start flapping your mouth. And, and those little things really stick with you, so like he would present certain words of wisdom throughout his films and little bits of humor. And I think you could do that. I think you could bring that to the screen. Yeah. Using your own style.
It was a great formula. It worked, right? Yeah. And that was I mean, at one point, John Wayne was like the quintessential American. It's like, it's cowboys on TV. He's like the guy, like the it guy. And so we're trying to, reimagine that and bring that spirit back, but like have it be like somebody like, myself, young, black, tattoos, gold chain on, but like I'm on the screen with a pistol and like, but I'm talking about how to save the community, you know, like.
I like it. I like it. I was trying to think like, I was a little boy, so I wasn't really thinking in terms of black and white or whatever. But those movie sets were pretty diverse. I got to be in a film with my dad when I was 8 called Big Jake, and like my dad would just tell you what was happening and you did it. Like there was no prep or anything like that. So we're going to Mexico to be in a movie, and I don't know if it was a makeup guy or wardrobe guy, but he dressed like a lady. So that was confusing to me. So I was like, Dad, is this guy, whatever. Everybody worked together. Everybody worked there if they were good at their job. Right. Like nobody cared what you did at home. But as an 8-year-old kid, and when you're walking and you're seeing this stuff for the first time, he's like, that's so-and-so, and that's what he does. And he's good at being a makeup man or a costumer or whatever the deal was. And okay, we became fast friends. And then I'm in a scene with a black woman. I can't remember her name, but we were holding hands, and she was doing something to my hand, and I was looking at her hand. And I just seen the lady that was really a man, and then I'm with her, and her palms were pink like mine. And as an 8-year-old, I turned her hand over, and I'm like, "Is that makeup?"
Right.
And she's like, "No, it's not makeup." And I'm like, "Oh, our palms are the same color." She's like, "Yeah, white people spent more time in the sun. Yours didn't. We're all the same."
Wow. Yeah.
Anyway, it was interesting to me as an 8-year-old boy to be put in a situation that was somewhat confusing. Like I wasn't aware of anything. You know what I mean? You don't know till you're going and you're talking to people. Yeah. No. And then you realize kind of everybody's just person. Just we're working and playing and interacting. And I think the more we do stuff together and get to know each other, the better off.
I mean, that's
better off we'll
that
be.
Definitely rings true. I mean, I can relate because even like the horses are what kind of introduced us to other people, other kinds of people. Because we grew up in the hood, and for us, it was just like blacks and Mexicans, really. And then we would get on these, load up the horses and go to Malibu or somewhere, or go to some rodeo or something, and it's like all white people.
Yeah.
And so like it was like culture shock when you pulling up, and then like, who are these people? But then like, by the end of the day's events, we all done been on the horses, watched each other ride, and then by the end of it, we're all chatting like, oh man, yeah, we all the same. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you love the horse, I love the horse. We talking about where we come from, what we doing, and before it being introduced through the horse activities, we would have just been looking at each other like, you're weird, I'm weird, whatever.
Yeah.
But the horses brought us a lot together with a lot of different kinds of people, and that's what a special part of the relationship with the horse too is that it just opened our worldview so much, has taken us so many places.
It's really important for people to travel and be around other people, right? Because most of my childhood was down in Mexico, right? So I was in little Mexican towns. This is in the 60s.
Yeah.
Pretty remote, no internet. I think there might have been a TV channel that you could watch, but you get down there and you stare across at the kid, and he stares at you, and you're like, you look different. Like, no, you look
especially
different.
Being a kid.
And then pretty soon you're playing,
Yeah, exactly.
Or you're getting in a fight, and then you play later, like whatever it was. And then, we'd go film on reservations or near reservations, and so you got the Native American kids and me, and it just, it just takes time. You got to be there with people to understand them. And so you're getting the kids out, you're teaching them a skill, you're getting them interested in something, beyond themselves and what they're doing. And then you're introducing them to other experiences. And it's important. It's like when you travel.
Yeah.
Travel opens up people's eyes significantly. I'm grateful to my dad that I got to go a bunch of places with him when I was a little guy. And, he worked with a lot of people, but it is curious, like, if they're looking at a genre, and granted he was an actor, so he was in control of everything, but he did have certain control, and he had people that he worked with, like Woody Strode. You know who Woody Strode was?
I know his name.
He's a black actor, and Woody was either an Olympic athlete or really significant rodeo guy. Can you look up Woody? He just got inducted into the Cowboy Hall of Fame.
I know that because they were saying he had also done a bunch of movies and stuff too, and he was
What was he?
He was one of the first Black American players in the NFL.
In the NFL, yeah, he was
nominated for a Golden Globe.
So he was a football player.
Yeah,
he wasn't. Yeah, and then somebody was a really good cowboy. When I was a kid, I can't remember who it was, but thinking,
I know exactly who I think I know exactly who you're talking about.
Thinking back, you'd think they tried to get certain things right. It's funny that they didn't have like a mix of people in there, in a lot of those westerns.
Yeah, I mean, The times. I kind of just chuck it up to that. It's
Yeah.
like the times, the society, the culture, and then they tried to make it a business. And you got to think about who had money to buy what and what they wanted to see.
But in cinema, when did was there a black cinema scene? Like, is there a time when,
black people didn't really have a
like
moment.
was it either like a black film or a white film, or did anybody like get it together?
I think like black people started having a moment in cinema with it kind of came out as a form of it's called blaxploitation, where there were like
I remember all that
goofy black movies, but like that was the first time you started seeing real black actors become stars. And then that was like the real moment that black people started having in cinema, and then from there, up into and through today, we're still having like obstructions and trying to. But there's a lot of incredible black like movie people who are doing great now. Like you got Oscar-winning directors now that are black, Oscar-winning stars.
You're getting a project done. Like you're unique. I wonder, like, if there's a difference for a black guy getting a project done or white guy getting a project done, Chinese guy getting a project
Absolutely.
done.
I mean, the industry is still very old guard.
Because the industry seems to be focused on things, right? Like we do this kind of movie right now, and then everybody, we get 5 or 6 of those kind of movies, and somebody comes up with a new kind of movie, then they all do those kind of movies.
Because what happens is once you got corporate people running businesses that are responsible for art, it's like they care about bottom line and selling stuff. Yeah. They don't really care about what it does culturally. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like they want to sell stuff. If you make that's where.
And I can remember as a little boy, my dad would rant and rave about certain things, and he worked with the real movie moguls of the day. Before like the money guys came in and took over the studios. Like he worked with the guys who were
cared about the movies
into making films, and then he saw the money guys coming in and taking over, whether it was venture capital or banks or whoever was taking over the studios and stuff. And then it was just like,
copy and paste.
I don't want to have to show a boob in my film, because then in the next film I'll have to show 2. And then in the next film I'll have to do something else. And the next film I'll have to do something else. Yeah. And when you watch some of the programs that we have on television today, we have incredible productions. We have like really well done stories like HBO and all these long format productions, great stories, great production value, great everything, but they seem to be, they have to shock you a little bit more than the last one. So it's not aspirational. It's not like the guys are kind of doing the right thing. It's always like something more shocking, and by the time you get to the 4th or 5th season, I don't like anybody in the show anymore.
It happens all the time.
And I want to like somebody. Like I start off, I'm like, Tony Soprano's great. Like he's a great guy. By the end, you're like, these people are all horrible people.
Right. Man. Yeah, it's that clickbait environment that we in,
And I think kids need to go like, man, this guy with no shirt and he's tatted up, he's a good dude.
Yeah, no doubt. That we don't have to turn him into like some piece of crap, just to get people to click on him and stuff. But we in that environment, but we trying to work hard to, and that's what I hope to do with our platform is to bring that integrity back to the art and to the culture. It's like just to do something really dope and keep it like intact. Like we don't have to do all the pop cultural stuff for the money, and we're especially being in LA, man. Like this is where the money is. This is the whole game is here. So all these people are running around here. It's like the big studios, the big money guys, the big everybody, and everybody's trying to hit a lick. But I'm trying to gravitate towards the people with the who care about what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like even with this whole ranch concept I'm trying to pull off in Malibu, it's like I could run to a bank and be like, hey, but they're just going to give me a loan. They want to own most, 51% of the thing. They want to control everything. I don't want to do that because I don't want to people that who want to run a ranch just because it's a money opportunity for my vision. I want people who care about the horses and the kids to be investors and be like, yo, I want to see it through. I'll take the risk even if we lose the money, whatever. I believe in what you're doing. Let's go for it. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm being very specific about who I curate to be a part of that team that's doing that together, because we got to have some integrity. And being in LA is tricky to find a lot of that. But
it's like their integrity meter is low in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and there's some good people out there. But
you just put all these questions in here. Oh, this is I got 2 of the same. Yeah, it takes me a while with my old eyes to see all that.
Yeah.
So you got a movie deal.
Yep.
You got a book.
Yep.
and the music.
Music.
That's your
my
that's
stuff,
your thing.
man. Randy Savvy. My music I'm defining as street country. So it's taking the best of both what I've grew up on from hip hop back in the day, all the West Side Connection, Tupac, Snoop Dogg, all of that. Like my dad was a big West Coast hip hop fiend. Like, and my auntie was a cowgirl, so she's listening to Reba and Alan Jackson and Toby and all these Leanne Womack. Actually, to date, the most emotional I get when I hear any song of all time is still "I Hope You Dance" by Leanne Womack. Like every time I hear that song, I don't care how old I am, where I am, I literally get tears in my eyes. I'm like, this song is still kicking my butt. It's such a beautiful song about life.
Yeah.
And just like, if you get a chance to sit it out in life
See,
or dance,
it's got a heart.
and dance.
It's got a heart as a young man.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And that song
I
is
do.
amazing. And so those kind of things. And so now what I'm doing as a career musician, finally found like, okay, my music is my calling. I'm gonna do it no matter what. The Compton Cowboys thing happened. It kind of helped me find myself. I started wearing my hat more. Started going. My aunt gave me a truck, so I'm in my heart in the truck. You see my truck outside.
Yeah.
You see I customized that gangsters. You know what I'm saying? I got the wheels blacked out.
I got some ideas for my van after
you know
seeing
what I'm
this
saying?
truck.
So and then I hop out. But so I'm wearing my hat more. But then I start being like, oh, but I still got my street essence, so let me throw the gold chain on. So now I'm putting all this stuff together, and I'm looking myself in the mirror, and I'm like, yo, this is dope. This is like street. I'm like a street dude. I'm like a country dude at the same time. Then I'm walking into the studio like this, and I'm like, and sitting in the booth, and I'm like, man, like somebody give me some of those real street drums. Oh, but you know what? Let me get some acoustic, bring some banjo. I'm like bringing my people, all that stuff together. And so now my stuff is like real down the middle. It's like, bro, what is this? It's like, and I'm like, yo, it's street country, bro. It's like the songwriting is important, but the vibe and the bounce is important too. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like and I'm trying to bring cowboys into hip hop, and I want to bring gangsters from the streets into country. And I have to find some avenue to do that. And to me, it's the music. The music drives culture. And if I can find a way to walk the line and bring I'm imagining at my shows, I'm going to have like hillbillies and like gangsters in the same place, like looking at each other like, why are you here? Like, why are you here? But oh shit, we're here to see Randy. Like, and because he understands us all. Like, he is the representation of all of us. Like, bro, I'm born and raised in the street, Compton, California, my whole life, tattooed on my arm right here. This is my life. But I also grew up wearing these cowboy hats, riding the rodeos, and have a love for horse. I have horses all my life. I take care of 20 horses right now to this day. And so I know both. And so now my music is just the soundtrack to my life. So I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I got stuff out, and I'm still recording, and I'm always trying to figure that whole thing out.
And how do you release music now? Like, you know, when I was a kid, like an album came out and you'd album art and you'd wait for that thing, you'd get it, and you'd read every freaking
It was beautiful,
thing
man.
that was on
It was
there.
a beautiful
You had
experience.
to play it, you know.
I
Don't
miss
touch,
that.
don't scratch it.
You know what I'm saying? I miss that, man. I remember being a kid, getting my first album that had the explicit sticker on it, and I was like going to high school, riding the bus, listening to like Lil Wayne, just like with my hip, bro. Like any story, like documentary you would see of a kid just finding his love for music, that was me, bro. And I miss that shit. But now it's all everything's digital electronic, so now you can release music from the palm of your hand. Actually, I did my last.
Now you
release
got a
on my
movie. You
iPhone.
can do soundtracks. You can do, you know.
All that shit is coming, bro. I got
yeah.
soundtracks. I'm working with Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre is my mentor.
Really?
I can call him. He picks the phone up for me.
Wow.
He produced my first single, actually, that's out. Colorblind. It's
Wow.
a Dr. Dre produced.
So how do you get it out? Like, where do you release music now?
Yeah, well, all the streaming services are where you put them at.
So you just put it out there, and then
use
you
a
tell people about it?
Yeah,
and you go?
you use a distributor or service, somebody that sends your music to all the streaming services. They put it out, and then now you have a artist page on those. Like, if you go to Apple Music, you
Can't
can
we
type
get
in.
him to perform with Runaway June? Do you know? Have you heard Runaway June?
I haven't.
Well, my niece.
Yeah,
my niece
I would
has done
love to.
really well.
Anything. Just
So,
do
who's the
anything
guy that
music.
they're
I'm
with?
open with.
Luke Bryan. Do you know who
They're
Luke
with
Bryan?
Luke Bryan.
Yeah, they were just here.
Oh
I should've
man,
had you
that's
come
dope.
down.
Can we ask what it was like to work with Dr. Dre?
Dr. Dre is such a music mad scientist. Like, I thought that, you know, naturally he's Dre, he got all this music stuff, that's his story, but by now he's a mogul, he's done business, he's doing all these other stuff. So I thought that naturally, like, his thing would be like, okay, yeah, the music was great, that was a time in my life, but like now I'm doing bigger and better things. this dude is still like, yo, beats, music, like, oh my God, what do you think about this sound? Like, he's so into the music. When he's sitting there at his board and he's in that zone, it's like, oh man, like you really feel it. Like you get goosebumps watching him work. He's just like so in the zone. His ears are so sharp and he's so precise with everything. And he can hear stuff. And he's like, yo, so just being in the studio with him, and he welcomed me to his studio. So like when I first met, he just called my phone one day. He was just like, I answered the phone and it was a block call. And I normally never answer block calls because I just let them, people call me all day, every day. But I'm like, something told me, answer the phone. So I answered, Randy speaking. He was like, yo, Randy, what up? This Dre. I was like, oh, shit. I'm like, what? But in my head, I kind of, because of the whole way I was moving, I knew that was my whole goal, is that I knew once I built Compton Cowboys up enough, like the people from Compton that really had reps would reach out to me because they care about Compton. Compton has that spirit. Like people who are doing good work from Compton want to work together. So I knew that moment would come in my life. I just didn't know when, and it actually happened. So he's like, what you got going on, man? What you doing? I'm like, man, I'm taking care of these horses. I'm doing stuff for these kids. He was like, man, look, whatever you need, look, you guys, look, I'll feed the horses for a year. Just come get the check. And then what else you got? You got music? You got what? I'm like, bro, I got this. So he was like, he heard the music, hit me right back. Yo, come to the studio. He invites me to his house. Now I'm in Brentwood, like stayed like at Dre's house. He's like, I'm at underground his house, state of the art studio. He's got his whole team there. He's like, well, everybody, this is Randy Savvy. I'm about to do a single, so he got his whole team there for me. I'm in the booth. Dre's at the boards, and I'm just looking like, what is happening?
Is there something that you're going to do, or you just make it up when you get there?
Well, he had one of my songs that he heard, he liked and wanted to do his version of it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I had a very broke down singer-songwriter kind of song that was called Colorblind, which was about all the colors in the hood that are normally, you associate colors with beauty, right? Like the rainbow or like all this stuff. But like in the neighborhood, a lot of colors are traumatizing for us. So like red and blue lights on the police car, or the red and blue flags of gangsters hanging out their pockets, right? Or like the green money, people do all this stuff for, kill each other and hurt each other for money, or like yellow tape on the ground, like white chalk from people dying on the ground. So I wrote a whole song about that. It's called Colorblind. Like sometime I wish I was colorblind because all these colors are bringing me down. Know what I'm saying? So I wrote the song, recorded it, and he loved the song. And he was like, yo, bring me to the studio. Like, I'm going to put so I brought it in there. It was really simple, the production of it. And then he just turned it into like a gospel masterpiece. Wow. Like in like 30 minutes, he had like this guy like, hey, put this choir on there, put this thing on there. And it's like, by the end of like the session, it's just like this thing. We're all in the studio, just like, I'm just in tears. And like, only like an hour went by. And he's like, all right, cool. What's next? Like, and I'm like, bro, this dude is a master at this, and he still loves it to this day, like he always did as a kid. So to this day, he loves what I'm doing. He's supportive. He mentors me. He gives me ideas. I can record it. My newest single I recorded at his studio. That's out right now. It's called Sound Like California. So just a West Coast bouncy, radio-y kind of vibe. That's very urban, very country-ish. And yeah, we doing it. We doing
put a little studio out in the desert, out in Pioneer Town. There's a couple out there that do a bunch of stuff, but then you could take horses out there. Work on music.
See, the thing is, the music is the biggest driving force for culture in the world. Like, no politician or anybody that is like wants to be some type of global leader will ever have more power than the biggest artist in the world, ever. True. Because music just moves people from the youngest to the oldest. So my thing is, if I can find a way to have a music play on my mission, I'm already a musician, so I might as well just find the music play on my mission to bring people and horses and kids together. I got to do it. That's what I have to do. So that's what I'm mostly focused on, is finding a way to do my movement through music. And I think I've found the formula for that, and it's going to work. It's just a matter of time now. Dude, I want y'all to hear that John Wayne song I got. Yeah. The song is like, the concept is like, I John Wayne'd it off of my block. Like I'm a cowboy that got it. I made it. And I John Wayne'd it. People always say that. You just got to John Wayne it. Like, I John Wayne'd it, from my neighborhood, and I made it. You know what I'm saying? So that's the whole vibe of the song. It's really cool. It's hood. It's country. It's like a vibe. So we'll play.
Oh, I can't wait to hear it. Yeah. And I've always resisted reading a biography of my father, and I don't know why, but it just kind of like, I'm like, who's this guy? Like, he didn't know him. He wasn't around when I was a kid.
Exactly.
But I finally broke down and started listening to one, and it's really interesting. Like, I just immediately got sucked in. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. Really?
Yeah.
And some of it's probably speculation, and they're putting things together and talking to a bunch of different people. But They do a good job. And it's interesting to go back and look at your parents' early lives, you know?
He's an esteemed gentleman, man. I mean, from our vantage point, you know what I'm saying? You being his son, you probably got a bunch of other things to say and feel, but
I mean, he's your dad. It's different. You know, I didn't come at him. I didn't get to him through the screen, you know, so that I didn't have the opportunity to get that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where he was inspiring you and he led you and he did all this stuff. He was my dad.
Yeah.
And, you know, my dad was a little bit older. He couldn't move like he did when he was little. He's having some lady problems, you know, like everybody's mad.
You saw
at
the
him.
real stuff.
So you're like, oh, I felt a little bit vulnerable with them sometimes. But then when you go to work, got a really good feeling because there he's in charge. He's happy. He's working on a project, you know, that kind of stuff. And then as you get older, you start, you know, going back and watching the films and you go, oh my gosh. And then you look at his, you know, his story, his road, you know, and how hard he worked on it. You know, I didn't realize how hard he tried, you know, to make a go of it.
It's hard work. People always say, it trips me out. You know, you start doing entertainment and they're like, oh, you want to take the easy route out. It's like, you don't understand how hard this business is. Like, you have to work your life into it to even get a chance.
You got to elevate to a place where you can do something like that because, you know, you can go do trades, right? You could be a stockbroker, you could be a plumber, you could do whatever. Like, everybody can learn that. But if you want to find a way where you can go be creative and tell stories or share, you know, emotions, like music's kind of emotional, right?
Very, yeah.
So, you know, if you want to be able to communicate that to other people and share it with them, it's a high level. You know,
it's hard work, man. I spend most of my life working. I don't even, you know, I mean, I have 2 babies and I try to get some rest here and there, but my life is a grind. All my work is entertainment mostly, and then my kids' programs. But I'm in the studio, then I'm meeting with writers, then I'm over here doing the interview. Like right now, I'm here doing the podcast. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then I got to run from here and go do this other thing. So it's like that's the life. But to me, it's all worth it. If you know, to be able to give back and do all that.
Randy,
you know?
in 4 years, I mean, you've worked with what is it? Adidas, Ariat,
Google,
Boot Barn, like Guinness.
I've been working
you got a
so
deal with
hard.
Fox Searchlight. Like, come on, you doing it?
You imagine how hard I'm working? Like,
yeah.
But I always feel like this is my calling, so I don't get tired. I just keep going, man. And
how old are your kids?
3 and 1. My big boy will be 4 in January.
Wow. 4.
So they're just some little rascals. You know, they give me a run for my money. So I always say I gotta hurry up and make it before my back goes out. Because otherwise, them boys, man,
that's
they're
awesome.
Crazy. But they love being outside. They always want to be at the ranch riding and stuff and all that. And it's a beautiful experience. I'm so blessed to be able to raise my kids around horses and farm and be outside.
Yeah.
A lot of kids today, they like this attached to something. And mine, I'm proud to be able to have them love running around throwing rocks and digging up dirt and putting water into stuff.
Man, Randy, I'm stoked for you. Thank you for coming down, sharing your story with us. Thanks for being cool to me every time I see you.
Always, man.